So this is episode 6, and this is talking about bid day at Kelly Construction Group. Take 1.
So here's the scene. The phone's ringing. The fax machine's beeping. All right, let's start over.
Okay, this is bid day at Kelly Construction Group. Take 2.
So here's the scene.
Oop.
The phone's ringing. The fax machine's beeping. The emails are flying in. We're deciphering contracts. We're deciphering proposals.
Internet's down. Okay, this is going to be bid day at Kelly Construction Group. Take 37. Action.
So here's the scene. The phone's ringing off the hook. The emails are flying in. The fax machine's beeping. Your underarms are sweating. All kind of things are happening. We're reviewing subcontractor proposals. We're trying our best to throw this thing together. It's 5 minutes to 2. I still need 3 numbers to finish this thing up. We got to wrap this bid up. Let's go.
I'm getting stressed out just listening to this. Welcome back to the K-Cup, y'all. This is episode 6, and today, as you probably guessed it, we are talking about bid day at Kelly Construction Group. So let's dive back in here with John, the CEO and founder of Kelly Construction Group, and he's going to give us some insight into a couple different ways that bid day can go.
Good deal. Yeah, I'm ready for this, Joe. Should be a fun episode.
You set it up good.
I've had a few people ask, what is bid day like at Kelly Construction Group? And a lot of people don't understand, the bid process and what goes into it.
Yeah.
And really a lot goes into a bid. Our estimators could really come in and probably give a better show on this. But, fortunately, I've had quite a bit of experience doing it myself through the years.
Yeah.
So just today we want to give a little glimpse of what that looks like. And there's actually a couple scenarios here that we would consider kind of bid day. And I'd like to spend the day just talking about a few of them, giving some insight on what they look like.
Cool.
So the bid process, you got your estimators, they set up your bids, they send out their RFQs or RFPs to all the subcontractors that they're wanting to bid with. And it really takes a lot of work to get all that organized. They go back and forth with those guys, getting the RFIs ready for the architects so that they can make sure they're putting together a solid bid. So it's a big process, up to bid day. I mean, typically these guys are going out to a pre-bid.
Yeah.
Where they go out and they meet the architect, the owners, and, usually a lot of other subcontractors are there, check out the job site, and start trying to decide right then and there, like, what do you got to do to get this job?
Yeah.
But the part that gets really interesting, is bid day. And bid day is where you typically compile all of these numbers, and your numbers to put together a bid. And you're trying to be the lowest, but you still want to make money.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah.
And bid day usually it starts a little bit slower. Usually bid day, you hear early, estimators come in a little bit early on bid day. They've already put, a substantial amount of time into understanding the plans. And I've already kind of formulated somewhat of a plan on what we got to do to try to get this job.
Yeah.
But we made a little funny intro here, but that's kind of what it looks like the closer to bid time.
Yeah.
It's a significant amount of pressure for our estimators.
Absolutely.
There literally is like emails coming in back to back, specifically on public bid, which we do a fair amount of.
Yeah.
But even on invited bid, you can still run into the same thing.
Yes.
But so those bids are coming in. You have to decipher those bids. You read through them, make sure you understand them, find the number that you want to plug and you're comfortable with, and you plug it and you keep moving. And typically these jobs are pretty big, so you're doing this over a number of scopes. So it's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of things that you got to think about. You have to have a well-oiled approach for sure.
A lot of it's not in your control either.
Yeah, no, I mean, a lot of times it's not, and we'll get to that in just a second. But basically, you plug in these numbers, you're trying to get to the bottom dollar that you can.
Yeah.
And usually these things bid around 2 p.m. or something like that most of the time. The dates, I mean, the time can change, but typically it's 2 p.m. And there are times where it's a few minutes to 2 and you waiting on a few key numbers
Yes.
that you need, and you got to get them in.
Yeah.
And lots of heart pounding and sweaty hands trying to get this thing pulled together. But it's a lot of pressure, and our guys do a good job at it. But it's a very hectic day. It's a very hectic day.
For sure.
And you're wanting to put together a very solid bid. You're wanting the job very bad also. But we go into these things with some parameters. We try to know what the number needs to be. We know our numbers, so we try to make sure that that job can work for us.
Yeah.
But lots of pressure. And I said fax machine earlier, and that was
yeah.
That was a real deal.
What is a fax machine? I'm not even sure what that is.
Yeah, no. So look, I've been doing this for a long time. When I first started, fax machine was like huge. Like lots of bids would come across on the fax machine, which
that and the teletype, right?
Which is funny because now literally we don't have a fax machine here, but it was a real deal at one time. But that's one way that you get a number for a job.
Yeah.
You pile it in like that. It's real hectic. It's real fast. You do your best to do a thorough review. Some subcontractors do the honor of sending you a scope sheet prior to sending you a number, so at least you understand what their scope is, and you've been through it, and you kind of have an understanding of what their plan is.
Yeah.
But as you can imagine, trying to compile a bunch of numbers, and usually a large majority of those numbers in 30 or 40 minutes, and then a couple key numbers in the last 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Pretty hectic way to try to get work.
Yeah.
And it's pretty common. It's very prevalent in our world.
Yeah.
But something that we do week in and week out.
Like you mentioned, a lot of times there may even be another person who's at the location where the bid has to be submitted, if it has to be submitted in person, and they may be hanging on the phone waiting for us back here to compile those numbers that you're saying that may come in literally 30 seconds before they got to turn the bid in, and then that person has to get that written out.
Yeah, lots of sweaty hands on bids day.
Yeah.
And to your point, that person is sitting at the bid site.
Stressed. Yeah.
Oftentimes, because these things have to be hand delivered.
That's right.
Waiting on a number that our estimators are probably waiting on a number.
Yeah.
And it's a crazy process to think that that's the way bids happen, but they do. It's just the nature of the beast, I guess.
Yes.
But we also have another form of bid that we do that's, I guess, a little less stressful, and I'd say a lot more organized. Actually, a lot less stressful as well.
Yeah.
And that's our bid presentation, and what that looks like. It's similar in a sense, but typically you're bidding this with some hand-selected subcontractors, a lot less people.
Yeah. You've
typically met with an owner, and if they don't know their budget, you at least have an understanding of what their budget is. And it's a project that starts off with that method.
Yeah.
And typically we would put together a solid budget. If they don't have plans, I mean, a lot of times like an owner will come to us with plans ready to go. And it's something that where we look at it, we put a number on it. We give, the value that we think we bring as a contractor. And bid day usually looks like a presentation. We've had ample time to meet with our subcontractors, not a rush to bid, ample time to meet with them, maybe even go sit down at their office, go through it, explain, what the owner's trying to accomplish. Put a lot more time and effort into trying to meet that client's need, because we've met with the client, we have an understanding.
Mm-hmm.
But getting back to what bid day looks like in that situation, a lot of times we'll have a solid number built, whether it's a design build type thing where we've already put together preliminary bid or preliminary elevations, and we kind of present that with our budget. Or if they've already had the plans, then we come in and we submit a budget, and at that point, it's a lot less stressful.
Yeah.
Usually some hot cookies on the table, some cold milk, or maybe water,
fresh coffee,
something.
yeah,
Honestly, a lot of times we ask the client what they like, so we make sure we have a few of those on the table.
mm-hmm.
But just a lot less stressful. And at that point, we sit down with the client, we go through the bid, we give them a real understanding of where the numbers are derived, and then we also share where we think we can excel, where we think that we can get ahead of schedule,
Yeah,
and just try to lock in a job and zero in on a job in that manner.
yeah,
So it's like the chaos day, throw a bunch of numbers, do a bunch of discovering, do a whole lot of whatever to try to squeeze it all into this one small number and throw it in there. Or it's basically a presentation.
yeah,
And we've had a little more time and, understand the client's needs. And our guys much prefer this method. They want to be able to sit down and talk to you and tell you how they got to those numbers,
yeah,
and just really explain to you, the ins and outs of your project, and explain how we landed where we land.
yeah.
It's always nice to have all those things go into consideration,
Mm-hmm.
rather than just a low number.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the things that I wanted to talk about on today's show, just the two variants of bid day,
Yeah.
and give an explanation of what they look like and how they feel. So if somebody is looking to come do business with us, and they're thinking about the different ways they can do it, then, the bid process is not a bad way, but obviously our preferred way is the second method. Let's work together from the beginning. Let's let's find a place that everybody's comfortable, and let's go make a project happen. So that's kind of what bid day looks like here in the office at Kelly Construction Group.
Yeah. So I wanted to back up a little bit and talk a little bit about
It's
the
not
pros.
surprising.
That hurt, man. Now, I wanted to back up a little bit and talk about the pros and cons of each of those, because one is definitely preferred over the other, but both kind of serve a purpose.
Right.
And there's definitely pros and cons to each of them. So on the con side of the competitive bid market, what are some of the things that you see there that make it not so desirable?
On the public bid.
Yeah, or
Or
competitive
the bid process.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, obviously, you're asking about the cons. So, the cons are you're asking the contractor to compile a lot of numbers in a really fast time period, trying to make the bid as competitive as possible.
Yeah.
So the con is just not really having the time to decipher subcontractor numbers, to decipher their exclusions and all of those things, and able to put together the best possible bid. So I'd say the major con is just not having enough time to really be super diligent.
Yeah. Another con that I see that's, definitely a negative is that you don't get the opportunity to demonstrate or sell the value that you bring to a potential project.
Yeah, absolutely. You want the owner looking at us and understanding what we bring to the table. We don't want them just looking at a number saying, here's the lowest number out there.
Yeah.
Let's go with them. And, that happens a lot.
Yeah.
And it's, oftentimes you're introduced to a project or brought onto a project by somebody who has confidence in you. So I understand that owners can have confidence with a low number, if you've been brought on by an architect or an engineer or whoever brought you into the project. That gives the owner some confidence. But like you said, we really like the opportunity to sell on value, not based just on our number.
Yeah, absolutely. As far as the upside of the competitive bid process, there are a couple upsides to that form of bidding. One that I can think of is it gives contractors who may have only been in the business a few years, but meet the requirements to participate in public bid. It gives them access to a variety of different kinds of projects, and maybe larger projects than they would be able to go out and procure on their own, having a very limited resume.
Right. No, that's a great point. Uh, and because if everybody's just waiting on this introduction into this big project or just needing somebody to kind of say, hey, this guy's good, and you don't have any experience, then that's a tough road. So that's a great point. I mean, it does give you an opportunity to get in there and bid some jobs that you're qualified for, but maybe you don't have it on your resume.
Yeah.
Great point. That's a great point. That's definitely a pro for that bidding process.
Yeah.
The other thing too is the owner does truly get the lowest price. Now we know that at the end of the day, you could run into change orders, you can run into different things because that style of bidding that we were just talking about lends itself to errors, and you see it time and time again.
For sure.
But generally speaking, and depending on the client, they typically do get the lowest possible number for their bid. But we also know, outside of what we just talked about, there may tend to have some quality issues and other things, just from avenues that were taken to get to that lowest bid.
Yeah.
So definitely there's certainly some pros and cons to both methods.
Yeah. I'd say another pro to the competitive bid market is the opportunity to, obviously, as any business owner wants to develop private work ultimately, because private work is going to be way more profitable, and it puts you in the driver's seat. It allows you to maintain some control over the process, where obviously the way you described bid day, it's pretty much out of control. You're doing a lot of stuff and then hoping for a great result. But with the competitive bid market, there's that opportunity for somebody who is really applying good business principles to recognize it for what it is and utilize it for its strengths. One of which is that you can use that as kind of a foundation to procure work, get cash flow, keep the people that you are bringing on board as you grow and gradually staff up, keep them busy and making a paycheck, while at the same time you're developing that private side of your business. You're developing the skills and the relationships necessary to get those opportunities. So there's another way that it serve your purpose, and like you've said in other discussions we've had about it, you want to be careful not to get into that game of just thinking you got to win every one and just go as low as you can go to win it, because that's not smart either. But there is a time and a place to basically cash flow and cover the bare necessities so that you can stay in business and work on other aspects of your business.
Right. I've never heard you talk about so many pros to the bidding world. So.
Kind of surprised you, huh?
Yeah, absolutely.
See? There you go.
No, but I agree. There certainly are benefits to both ways.
Yeah.
I think anybody wants the opportunity to sell theirself and sell their company. So I believe everybody would like that opportunity. But I know as a company, we're very appreciative when we get the opportunity to bid projects. Even when we're not having that opportunity to sell ourselves, we're always very appreciative of architects and engineers that we work with to give us that recommendation to get on the bid list. And we go out there in those opportunities and we give it our best. I mean, we try to make sure that the project works for us. And we made it sound really chaotic in the beginning, and it is very chaotic. But there's also an intelligent approach to it. We try to make sure that this project's going to be a good fit for us. Yeah. We think it through before bid day to understand, how we can go cheaper than the competition, but still make it a good, profitable job for us, and also make it the job that the end user or the owner's hoping to get.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the two worlds that we live in. Yeah. I think, like you say, we like to sell ourselves. We love that presentation, but very appreciative for any bid opportunities that we get.
Sure. So, not to stump the teacher or anything, but is there any downside to the private, the private lead type of opportunity? Is there any words of caution there that you'd share with anybody?
Well, I mean, from my point of view, not really. No, I'm kidding. I mean, I think the one downside that I can think of right away is, well, we like for the owner to get to know us in the beginning. Yeah. Because we want them to trust us. We want them to understand our views. And then we want to work towards that number. But I think the downside, for the owner is they do only have our point of view. They only do hear from us. And while we're going to be truthful and honest, and we're going to give them, everything we can give them, as true as we can, there's always other methods. There's always other avenues. So I think the one downside I would say is just not getting multiple point of views. But in that same breath, I know oftentimes they're talking to other contractors and stuff as well. Mm-hmm. But I would think that would be the one downside that, if a potential client just kind of locked into one person, you're only getting that person's point of view or that company's point of view during the process.
Okay. I wouldn't have thought of that. I'd have thought that that's kind of what we want, just to have them get our point of view. But
well, it is.
But the concern is that you're afraid that they might have buyer's remorse or something, or think that maybe they didn't turn over every stone going into the process.
I was trying to not come from just our view. I was trying to think from an owner standpoint.
Yeah.
Like what might be a con.
Put yourself in there.
For us, like I said, I really don't see a lot. There's not a lot that I like that process. I don't see a lot of downside for it from us, if you will.
I got you.
I guess you stumped the teacher.
No. It's not unlike me not to get it the first time around, but I got it. I'm clear on it now. Anyways, all right. So, it sounds like it was a good comparison. I did get to surprise you because I did bring the positive sides of the competitive bid market. Right. There are upsides to most coins if you just flip them over and check out the other side. You just have to take time to do that. Obviously, we prefer to be in the driver's seat if we can. So, the private bid market is definitely more desirable, as far as the bottom dollar is concerned. But as we brought out, the competitive bid market does serve its purpose, and it is a source of opportunity, particularly for young contractors getting started out there. So.
Right. Yeah, we've definitely done our share on the public bid, and we still do a fair amount of public bid.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Anything else that you want to share about, the comparison of these two methods for procuring work?
I think I just want to crawl in a hole after that last one, so I'll just stop right here and we'll call it good.
All right. Well, we'll coax you out of that hole here as soon as we turn the camera off. Hey, glad y'all came back and visited us at the K-Cup, and come back again. We'll have some more. If not valuable information, it'll at least be entertaining for you next week. So have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you here in a week. Thanks.
Ta-ding.
Cut. All right. What'd you think about them apples?